Hello, this is Neil, the art instructor at masterpaintingnow.com, where you can find more free tutorials and art lessons. In this particular lesson, and it's an actual lesson step by step where you actually learn stuff, rather than just, hey, look at me paint while I talk to you. So in this lesson, we're going to be covering how to do a portraiture, like how to paint a portraiture, and we're going to do a different method. Instead of doing any sort of sketching or any sort of like underpainting sketching, we're just going to go straight into like using shapes. Right, so let's go ahead and start out with our head shape here. I'm going to use like an ink brush here for this. I have some colors here that I have set up that I'm going to be using. There's like this warm orange color, warmish orangish red color, this color. I'm probably using this pink and this color here. These are different colors I like to use when doing skin. And there's many different kinds of flesh tones to use, so there's no one particular palette that's correct. It also depends on what kind of person it is that you're painting. Are they African? Are they Asian? Are they more reddish white? Are they more yellowish white? There's all different kinds of people, and then that person will look different in different environments. The environment will always change how the person looks, so keep that in mind. Right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm kind of going with a three heads view, and if you want to, you can kind of, if you're used to like using some sort of construction line, you could take a paintbrush, and kind of do, some sort of, construction line, and to just to kind of paint in the shape. But either way, what you're doing here is you're still you're painting in the shape here, the overall shape of the head. And that's all I'm focusing on at this particular moment, is the shape of the head. And we'll block in where the eyes and stuff go. So it's different than just like drawing some kind of sketch or doing some kind of underpainting. Next, I'm going to think of where I want the neck to be. I want the neck to kind of be somewhere in here. I might kind of change the shape of the jawline. Next, I'm going to be coming down to over here, and then maybe the shoulder will be somewhere in here. And neck will kind of stop, and the other part of the shoulder will come off that way. Right, now what I might do is, just to make sure I don't lose that jawline, just kind of sketch something in there like that. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you can do your typical, head type construction here. And kind of imagine where everything's supposed to fall along, and go about it that way. But instead, I'm going to rely more on just painting. I know my ears can be a little bit lower because the angle that the face is in. I'll take kind of a shadowy color here. I'm going to add in all the shadow underneath the neck where I want it to be. And so I'm not going to be talking so much about, this is more about flesh tones you're using and how to like paint the portraiture. So you should already have a good idea about the human head. So if you haven't already gone through some sort of human head course, understanding the structure of the human head and the face and how to construct the face in different views, and proper proportions, all that, then you might want to pick up my head course, or take a course somewhere, or pick up a head course somewhere, and that way it'll help you out with that aspect of drawing. My head course is only, I believe, $19, and it's 20 hours long, and it goes through everything you'll need to know about drawing heads, going from the the skull and the 3/4 view and the extreme 3/4 view and front views, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's not important that you get my course. It's just important that you have that base knowledge there. So now that I have some three-dimensional aspect going on, I can kind of imagine what's happening here with this face. And one thing I might do is elongate it a little bit. And this is where understanding proper proportions of the head come in. And then I'm going to have a little indent. I know about a little bit above the ear in this particular view. I'm going to have some indent in there. Right, now I'm going to take, I like painting with this standard chalk brush that comes with Photoshop. This is where I'm going to be mixing my colors in her shoulder. I'm going to take that kind of color there. And at this point now, what I'm doing is, notice the colors I'm using. I'm using kind of, this right here isn't necessarily the same exact color as the flesh tone. So I'm using kind of like a purplish color, but in this case it looks more red in Photoshop when you actually bring it up, versus that there is way down that perspective. So you can see there are two different colors that I'm using here. What I recommend doing is In this case, I'm going to be using a cool light, and so I'm using warm shadows. But that's not always the case. It just depends on the background that you're working with and the environment and the kind of light that you're using. If it's an incandescent light, like the kind of lights you'd see inside like Walmart or something, it's going to be more cool light. But if you use more of a warm light, like the kind of lights that most people's houses have, then it's a little different. That might make the skin more warm. And you'll see like a lot of like swimsuit models, they're lit up with very warm lights, and so their entire body kind of looks warm. In that case, you're going to have kind of yellow highlights, that lean toward the yellow area, a lot of oranges and stuff, and toward the midtones, and a lot of like more reds, warmer colors in the shadows. As a general rule, though, typically if the light is cool, the shadows are going to be more warmer, unless you're like in a really cool environment where everything is reflecting. It's very cool colors, blues and greens and stuff like this, or you're being hit with a lot of blue ambient type of lighting, or just hitting a flat being hit with like blue lighting, like let's say you're close to a neon light and things like that. Those are definitely things to consider. But typically, if the light is warm, then the shadows are cool, and if the light is cool, the shadows are warm. So I'm going to kind of, what I like to do when I'm painting the face is I think about the overall like block, like okay, where are the for some reason my thing stopped working. There we go. Oh, I had the wrong color. Where the eyebrows are going to be, and I kind of imagine that where it's going to be. That's going to be the top part of this part of the eye I'm going to be painting in here. And then I'm going to paint in a solid kind of color now for the rest of the eye. And I'm thinking about the overall shape of the eye socket here. I'm just coloring. I'm just starting out with dark. There's all different kinds of methods for painting and how to block things in. Again, you could do like an underpainting, like a wash painting, where your brush is very light. I'm doing part of the nose here, then the eyebrow, which is up here. What's cool about the painting method is you can, come in and you can, after you block in something, if you don't like it, you can kind of paint over it with another color and just kind of erase it that way. Right, so right now I'm just kind of, keeping it light at this stage here. And I know where the nose is going to be, and so I'm going to kind of just block in the nose. I'm going to block in just the bottom triangle part of the nose. That's what I usually do when I'm starting with the painting. Then I like to, either just do like a kind of round circle for the lips, or kind of, paint in some actual shape for the lips that think about the expression. What expression is this person going to have? I think I might have a slight open mouth, big lipped expression here. I don't think I want the lips going up that much, so let's see here. Just trying to think about how that's going to look, something like that, I think. Just kind of maybe bring this in a little bit more. Then I'm going to take my blue color. I'm going to kind of put just a little bit in there for where the teeth would be. And at this stage now, I'm going to start working on the light. And you think about form. So what form is like you can kind of represent form with three different tones, or three different tones basically. You have like a base tone or a medium tone, and then a darker tone, and then a lighter tone. And with those three tones, you can really make the form pop out. And that's the most important thing you want to focus on. You want to make sure that the perspective is good and that the form is good before you move any further. If you notice that you have any mistakes or anything, like you're like, okay, you know what, maybe I want the lips a little bit bigger. These lips work, but what if I wanted them bigger? I can always make them just a little tad bit bigger. And I like that, so I think I might go with that. Right, anyway, so just think about the forms. And now you got to think about the three-dimensional aspect of the drawing, or of the form of the face. Now, in order to paint a face in this way, you have to have all that knowledge in your head first. You can't just like start drawing this way, especially if you're going to be drawing from imagination. This would be near impossible to do from imagination, unless you're just like some kind of genius, unless you have some sort of formal course, some sort of training where you understand the form of the face. And again, that's what my head course will give you, all that knowledge to where you can start painting. I'm mainly sticking with one way to paint. This isn't the only way to paint a face. This is just one way to paint a face or portrait. Whether you're looking at a portrait or you're actually drawing from imagination, this is just one way to go about it. There are several different ways to go about it. One thing I noticed I don't like is the width of all this here. So I'm going to kind of bring it down, bring the ear back. This whole side of the face doesn't have that cool color to it. I like to go right back to the actual color itself if I can, rather than the sampling colors off of the image. The reason why I like to do that is I like to make sure that the colors are pure. And so here I'm imagining the light is coming from the top. Right now, obviously, that's not going to be the actual true color of the light. The light's not going to be like that intense. I'm going to put a little bit of skin color back into it. And let's see here. I'm going to kind of make this brush a little bit smaller. Kind of pull into the neck here. And so you can use this technique where you're kind of cutting away at the image. Works pretty good. Right, anyway, again, I'm going to try to go back to that true color here, instead of picking it off the image. I want the light to come up into the light. So anyway, back to where the light's coming from. So the light is coming from above, and it's coming from the right and coming toward us just a little bit. And so I know it's going to be hitting, since her head's kind of turned, 3/4 turn a little bit. That's why we see more of the head on this side than we do over there, and the eye is going to be like stopping somewhere around here. The eye's going to fit into that area there. There's a lot of space on this side versus that side. There's not as much space, so I can actually take the darkness and come all the way out there with it. The darkness of the socket. There's also be a lot of like worms and like in the nose area. So I'm going to kind of put a dark color there. I'm going to kind of take a pink and kind of put that in there as well. I'm going to put pink in the ear. Make the ear really pink right now, and a little bit of orange. Stupid Photoshop. Hate when it does that. Okay, you weren't able to see what it did, but it was irritating. That might drive some people crazy not knowing what just happened, but it's when the it pops up the little brushing when you go click and accidentally pops up the brush editing thing, and I didn't want to do that. So now I'm thinking about the form. I'm thinking about, well, how exactly, since her head is turned like 3/4 view, then all this right here is going to be hit, right? Because this is all like the side plane of the head. Remember, this is like the, let's go ahead and draw this with the red or something, some kind of color you can see. All right about here is like the corner of the face. And the other corner of the face is way over here, right? Like that. And that's, just being, we could see more of the side of the head here than we can over here. And this is all the front of the face. So think about the edges of the face with the edges of the object, and that helps you understand, like where light is going to stop when it hits it and where shadow will be. I'm going to kind of take this color here. And again, you don't have to use this color. You can use more of, a browner color if you're going, it just depends what kind of look you're going for with the skin tone. There's so many different kind of, skin tones you can do. I like to have like a warmer color happen where you have a transition from light to dark here. And I might come in and and change a lot of these colors, but for now I like the way they're working, and these colors typically work out pretty good. So there's all different kinds of skin palettes online that you can find, and it's really just a matter of, well, what skin palette works for you. And just keep in mind, the face is made up of a lot of different colors. It's not just like monochromatic, it's not lighter and darker values of just one particular thing, one color. This one kind of put in the eyebrow here of this kind of color for now. It probably won't be that color when I get done, but this just differentiates it for now. Whatever color I decide to make the hair. What's important is that the face is a lot more than just pinks and you know the highlights are either like kind of have warms like yellowish to it. It might have more blues like I have for my highlight here, and I might add a little bit of orange to parts of the highlight in certain areas. That way that part of the highlight down there might be more yellowish or orangish, and especially as it's coming toward this part of the cheek area, we're getting more like warm in that area. Then we're gonna come bring it here. I'm gonna have a little bit of highlight that's gonna hit in this part of the cheek to come up into the eye. So right now I'm building the form, and again the form of an object is that three-dimensionality that it has when you look at it. Might add a little bit of this warmness here down to the lips. A little bit of this highlights and hit down in here on the chin. Because the chin kind of, from the side view, you see the chin sticks out a little bit. So why is it that the light hits there? Because if you look at it, if you think about it, when you have the side view of the head here, you have the nose coming, out here. You have your lip here, to the bottom lip. Damn it! I'm like trying to sketch really far away, and it feels weird in Photoshop. You have this dip comes in, and the chin comes back out again. Anyway, it's a general idea. But because that chin's not quite, wasn't quite all proportioned right, but because the chin sticks out a little bit right there, the highlight can hit it again. You can get more impressionistic with your, with your light. You can get, really kind of this part of the eyebrow sticks out too, or you can, be more subtle with the lighting. So it really depends on, how you do the light is up to you. You can make it really exaggerated where you can really see the greens and blues and all that because there's all kinds of colors in the face, and you do want to make sure you put those colors in the face. Don't leave them out. Like your environment. We want to add a little bit of the environment into our background here. Some of that blue is going to pick up in here, so I'm adding a little bit in there. Some of this blue might here and there, and it's going to be really really subtle, and you'll go back over those colors again. But it's good to have them there in the first place. A little bit of highlight there. Might be a little highlight in the nose somewhere in this area here. And again, I'm keeping everything kind of big. A little highlight in that part of the cheek maybe. This eye might have a little more highlight. I'm adding a lot of like color variation within there, and that's going to give me that look I like. I like going with a dark color now. I'm going to kind of zoom in here a bit. And think about where the eye is going to start, which is going to be right around here. Take the eyebrow coming straight down, starts a little bit inside the eyebrow. I want to think about what's the highest part of the eye. So that's the eyelid part, and that's going to come up to about in here. Right, that's where your eye tucks into, your eyelid tucks into. That's going to come down over there. Then I have the next part of the eye, which comes up almost as high. And the eye isn't going to come out to the very edge of the eyebrow over here. It's going to stop more right around an angle, kind of like, imagine this kind of angle right here. We're going to add a lot of different colors throughout the face to get the ultimate look that we're looking for. So again, you have about an eye length apart. Eyes can come out to about here. Think about the eyelid first coming up, how high I want that to go. That's where the thicker part of the eye is going to be. The eyelid's going to be. The eyelid crease, or whatever you want to call it. Come like thinner with the actual eye part here. Think about the shape of the eyes you want. You can always change it, so it's not that big of a deal. You're not really dedicating yourself to too much yet. You can cut right back into it to change the shape of the eye if you wanted to. And then kind of zoom out, make sure everything is, looking the way I want it to look. Kind of give it a glance over. Take a darker color for the nostrils, and I'm going to just kind of put those nostrils in there just a little bit. The nostrils are typically a really dark color, but in this case, they're going to probably be more toward the like dark red. So first I'll add like this dark kind of red color and little circles and kind of shape the nostrils here. I don't want to make them too big. I don't want her to look like Miss Piggy or something. And we'll come back in and we'll fix them up as well. Then I'm going to take black because the very edges of the nostrils here, you'll see like a really dark color where light's not able to get in there. And then this kind of skin tone, add a little bit of that skin tone in there like that. It's going to come down in here. You have this darker shadow tone under here. Also, I'm going to put my little bit of my lip shadow in here as well. The little indent for the filchum. Take that highlight here and just kind of add it to this side of the lip because this side of the lip's being hit with the light. Again, I'm not talking so much about form and stuff in this video. This video is more about skin tones, how to paint the portraiture. So if you're finding yourself lost in certain things, you really need to go back and do a head course. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's my head course or somebody else's. Just you have a head course. But this part of the lip is going to be hit with light, so I want to go ahead and capture that now. Also, all along right here, there's going to be light hitting, and it's going to be like lines because there's texture to the lips. I just want to remind myself there's going to be light there. There's going to be really dark color. Again, I'm going to use a dark red to start out with. And this is what's going to separate the lips. Like this is one of the darkest part of the faces right here, where the lips separate right here and then they come out, and you're going to have kind of a dark color coming into the teeth area. And the darkest part is on the edge, and it's almost black sometimes. So I start with a dark red, and then, because this case we have the warmness of the image. And we have the warmness right there. That's where it gets dark. And so you can already see that we're starting to get a feeling of a face here. Now eyes are never like white. You can use kind of like a grayish, yellowish highlight. You can use kind of a blue. It just depends on what your main light source is. In this case, our light source is a bluer light source. And notice I don't paint them white. They're actually. And this is this palette for the skin. I sorry, I didn't finish my thought there. It's not white, but more like it's almost skin color. You can really see the skin color coming through. It's not a really white color. And we're going to add shadow and stuff into that as well. But what's important with when you think about when you're doing the faces is that kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry. Forgot what the hell I was going to say. Notice everything right here at this time is really rough. I'm not worried about so much detail and stuff. I want to make sure the form, everything's right. Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say this kind of particular, damn box just fell that I draw on top of. But anyway, this type of look right here that I'm doing to the skin tone is just one type of look you can have. And this is under only a certain kind of lighting condition. This is like a lighter skinned person, more of a pale person, and they're under like a really bluish kind of light, and it's that bluish light that gives them this the colors that I'm using. So to develop your palette, first you got to think about, okay, what kind of skin does my character have? Do they naturally have kind of a yellowish skin? Do they kind of have more of just a pinkish kind of skin? They're very pale, but is it more yellow like some Asians, or kind of like very pale but more yellowish? Or are they more pinkish? They kind of tan. Think about the natural color of their skin under the most natural light you can put them under. And then think about, okay, what kind of lighting system do I have them on? What kind of environment are they in? Because the environment is going to affect the color of the person greatly. And so think about the environment they're in. Are they in a greener environment? Are they outside with a blue sky, with a gray sky? All that makes a difference on how the skin looks. Take some photographs, and you'll see these differences. If you really study the photographs closely, you can really see the difference there between, like, take a picture of a person during a gray, cloudy sky and then during a nice, bright, sunny blue sky, and you'll see that their skin color doesn't look quite the same. I'm gonna give her really dark hair actually. So because I'm giving her really dark hair, I'm gonna come back in and make the base of the eyebrows dark. I don't know what kind of hair I'm going to give her yet. That's why I haven't decided to do any detail on the ear. So I know the hairline. I'm going to have it come in here. Come up around about here. Girls usually have, well, it depends. Some girls actually have tall foreheads. Some girls have short foreheads. So they kind of vary. I don't know if I never actually done like an actual like statistics thing and said, okay, well, what's more? I know this right here is like the middle of the hairline, and I know the hair is gonna be kind of up here. Has some volume to it. So I'm thinking maybe this side will be like this. This is kind of a weird base tone used for hair, but that's okay because you can always fix that. You can just add whatever kind of colors you want into the hair, and that's going to give it the style you want. I'm gonna add a lot of the skin tones into her hair. I'm gonna add some background colors in the hair, all kinds of stuff. And at this stage, I might just use like an ink brush to block in the color, make it nice and solid. I'm also trying to think about the hairstyle. Do I want it kind of more like flat, just kind of laying on her head? Or do I want to kind of give her a little bit of bangs here, kind of puff up a little bit, and then a couple of pieces of, strands kind of coming out like this from the bangs. And that's the back of the hair back there. So it's like different layers of hair. This would be like more of the bang area here. That kind of tucks around like that, and you have the I'm going to use a bigger brush and block in this color. This is all done in real time. So it does take a little bit longer than a sped up video, but I think it's more beneficial learning wise, because if you go to, take an art lesson at school, take an art course or something, the professor's not going to like speed up his video for you because there's no video. He's like going to be drawing for you in real time. And so there's no video to speed up. Kind of cut into her cheek there a little bit. I didn't like how big it was, so there we go. Yeah, a couple of little strands of hair there. A couple of strands hanging out over here. Right, so I think that works pretty good. And then we can add in the light shades. And at first, I go with like skin tones and out, kind of colors of the environment and the skin. I kind of add that into the hair. And this is like, think about the volume of the hair. I'm like, okay, well, I remember I had the kind of, what I wanted this sort of, I'll actually add a little bit of shadow for the hair here. All this area here is having a little bit of shadow to the hair, especially right here since the light's coming more strong from the right-hand side. Anyway, what I was saying is that I wanted this kind of loop right here, so I want to kind of show that. And I'll actually show it by making a darker color as well, maybe even just black. I just want to show there's a little loop right there. It's coming up, and there's a couple of pieces of strands you might be able to see in there. We'll add those later. And use a smaller brush here. And then I'll come back and I'll texture. But first, I think about what's the overall. Oops. First, I think the overall shape of the hair. That's what's important. And then I come and I focus on minor details. The same thing with the face. And I think it's easier when you paint that way. we know this side of the hair is going to be hit with light because it's opposite of this side. This side is being hit with dark, the shadow here. So I always use that kind of a mid-tone for the hair, and then come in and go, okay, where the dark's going to be, where the light's going to be. There's going to be some darks in here. All this part of here is going to be dark. It's going to have some light spots in here, depending on how I decide to shape the hair and design it. They're not going to be as dark as the top though, but that is different parts of the hair here is like overflowing. And so you're going to have some dark spots and some light spots depending on how the hair, the locks of hair. So think about the largeness of the hair first. This side might only have some ambient part of the background into it. All this here is going to be pretty dark. It's hidden away from the light. Like so. I can go ahead and lighten that up as well. Right, now I gotta decide what way I want her eyes looking. Notice it's already looking like a person, even though I haven't added. I'm gonna take a right here along the edge. I'll finish my thought in a second. Right along the edge, I like to add a kind of a warm color, a really warm color. And I do this along the edge of shadows, where shadows meet light. I personally think it adds for a cool effect, and you can actually see it in photos a lot as well. I'm going to take this kind of more bluish kind of color up in here, take that kind of darker shadow color. I'm going to kind of work this in, and actually I think I want more red. Red and kind of a little bit, maybe a little bit of purples, but I want really warm shadows. The reason why I want, again, the warm shadows is because I'm going with the right now the colors are really exaggerated. And the reason I want the warm shadows is because I'm going with the cool light source. So I kind of want that opposite effect. A little pink to the lips there. A little bit of like form inside the shadow itself. At this stage, I'm not adding like really any detail, but even though I'm not adding any detail, kind of like that pink color, add that in there. Even though I haven't really added any detail to the image yet, we can see like the form, because the form is there, we can really start to see the character. And notice how I'm like, okay, I want some form underneath the eyes, but maybe I have a little bit of light hit this side. And that's because there's a bottom lid there that has form to it. I want to show that being hit. I'll come in there, I'll light up that little indent right there. This part here will be hit with light right there. All that area up here is hit with light. But I kind of want to should do the hair on a separate layer, so I could have done that easier. A little bit of light will hit up in here. Mostly bounce light, reflect light, because this part is bubbling out. And you want to show that form, because that form usually always shows through. Kind of want to add this darker shadow here. Right, so I'm showing just form. That's all I'm focusing on right now, is form mainly. I'm not really, focus on any sort of detail, because you want to make sure the form is down right first. Because if the form's not down right, if you don't have the form and the colors down right, then nothing else is going to, no matter how much work you put into it, there's always going to be something wrong. Something's going to look off the entire time. And the reason why is because the forms aren't right. You know, the form, getting that form is really important. I'm thinking I might give her blue eyes, so let's go ahead and use some kind of base. That's an ugly kind of base blue. I'll start with something like this. Maybe a slightly bigger brush. It's kind of cool and sexy when if the person's looking to the right, with their head's kind of tilted to the right, that you have her looking to the opposite direction. So her head's kind of tilted to the left, so she's looking to the right. She's actually looking to her left though, but our right. So I'm adding just like the color in there first, and then I'm gonna come back and get black here. And this is where I'm gonna start adding just a little bit of detail. If you spend any time at all detailing, the place you want to detail, I'm gonna use a really dark color up here, is the eyes. When you're doing a face, detail the eyes, nose, and lips, and that will make your character really stand out. Even if they, you know, like everything else can be pretty lackluster and unfinished, but if the eyes, nose, and lips are done nicely, then everything else should be quite good. She's going to have mascara on, so let's go ahead and put that on now. Normally what would be right here, you'd have actually be hit with light. This would all right here be kind of lighter, like that, but we're covering that with mascara, so the mascara might be lit up and be a little bit lighter than normal. The bottom one might be a little bit lighter than the top due to light hitting that area. More of a gray color rather than black. Kind of lighten up a little bit. Bring out the mascara out to the edge, like so. And then I'm going to add a little bit of pink. Not too dark, not too much pink, just a little bit, and then sample that color. That's the color I want here on the inside of the eye there. I'm going to take kind of a gray color, pull all along the eye here, and that's like that drop shadow. Also within the eye itself, you're going to see it has form. I'm going to add that form in now. It's usually kind of a bluish gray or gray. Add a little bit of blue to it. A little bit of pink maybe, under part. But the eyeball itself has three-dimensionality to it. I want to add all that color variation in there because the eye usually has a lot of color variation. Take a darker blue, go around the edge of the eye with a darker blue. That's typically how eyes are. Add a darker shadow to the eyeball here. Add a large pupil. I think about it in stages, you know, when I paint eyeballs. Take some sort of highlight color, add a little bit of highlight here, maybe another little bit over here. Maybe that side should just be more like put it on color dodge or something and pick like a blue and just very lightly touch this side. Take a size 3 brush and let's just kind of mark. Color dodge is really cool for eyes. You can add some really cool effects. You don't want to overdo it though, just a couple little speckles. Just take it off of color dodge. And this part here, and this is where you start detailing. You know, you start coming in and thinking about individual eyelashes and whatnot. And you know, if you don't want to paint individual eyelashes, there's eyelash brushes you can get. It really can save a lot of time, at least, you know, and there's all kinds of different styles of eyelashes, so pretty much any style that you might want in a picture and it's there. And you can just quickly just pop those in there by layer, put on a different layer and size them up and use different tools like warp or whatever to shape the eyes. Anyway, I've done it before in other videos, so if you're interested. Remember, the eyelashes on the bottom come out from, there's a thickness right there, and the eyelashes grow out of that. If this is normally like skin color, you don't have makeup on it, and so I'm showing the eyelashes actually growing out of that, the bottom of there. If you look really close at your eye in the mirror, you can see that. You don't have to get this detailed either when you're doing an eyeball. I want to show the actual crease of the lid in here. The darker color. Not quite black, but it's pretty close. Then you can add, detail to the eyebrows and everything. We have little hairs, and you come back in and you have little missing pieces of the hair coming up into the eyebrow. So as you can see, it's really starting to, take effect. Just having that one eye done, to some level of detail makes the whole image start to pop that much more. You can also come in and start adding like strands of hair and things like that. And just these little details, as you start adding them in, makes the image start to pop. Just add a few dark strands into the light to kind of break it up. Maybe add a little more light strands like this. Maybe add a couple light strands in here. A couple dark strands overlapping the light strands, because hair doesn't, it's not all like perfect. Like you can't really brush hair totally perfect, kind of impossible. You have overlapping of forms. Sometimes I like to be like, really add that background color into my hair. I just think it looks cool. It's not something you have to do. It's not something that really happens. And there might be a little bit of that color that comes through and on like a photograph, but typically it's not really going to be there much. But again, I like to add it because I think it looks cool. I like to add some of the, darker shadows also, the kind of reds in there, just to add some variation. I think it makes the painting look cool. Right, so she's starting to come together and starting to look like an actual painting, an actual character. I know some people are like, why is this video so long and it's taken forever, but I'm doing it real time, so that's why. Painting takes time, and I'm having to explain and stuff while I'm painting. I'm not just painting only, not concentrating on talking about, hey, what's important, what's not important to know, when you're doing a painting. At this point here, I can really start blending some of this out here, start blending these colors together more. That's how you get more of a polished look, is, really blending the colors together. I want to make sure that her underlip here, I have this kind of darker color as well. If you can hear the cat, it's actually a under the house cat. It's not even a, it came with the house when I rented it. It's like actually there's quite a few under the house cats, and I kind of got stuck feeding them all. Right now it's wanting attention, I think. I'm actually upstairs in the loft, and I don't know how it figures out how to get here. Anyway, there's typically this, darker color right underneath the lip. And that's caused by the indent in your lip, because your bottom lip sticks out, protrudes, and it has like a dip. From the side view, you have your nose, and you have your upper lip, you have your bottom lip, you have that dip right there, and you have your chin. And there's that dip right there that, there's a shadow. So teeth are, very rarely ever white. They're, you don't ever just use like pure white to paint teeth. It won't look realistic. That milk line there, it's a highlight you often see, and sometimes they'll even extend to this side over here a little bit. Just depends on, the person's lip. And sometimes they'll extend all the way around. Like I'll slightly, this won't necessarily be because of light, it's actually because of this person's skin themselves. Sometimes you actually see it extend all the way around like that. I'm going to make sure my darkness extends all the way out here, out to the edge of the lip. I have a little bit of my highlight here, hit this part of the lip, and just that part more up here actually, like that. That just shows a little bit of the texture of the lip that it's hitting there. Most of the underside of the lip doesn't be darker. I use this kind of red. I'm going to kind of start with this kind of pink color here actually. I'll add some darker colors as I need. And I'm going to, first kind of go, okay, what's the, I'm going to use this textured brush for most of the painting actually. I've become quite fond of the textured brushes. It's a standard chalk brush that comes with Photoshop. It also is right there if you want to see it in my brushes, that's where you'll find it. Okay, I'm going to kind of use this kind of pinker, darker color. Sometimes it's good to start in black and white because it might be difficult to see difference of value and that you're adding a darker value or not. And so by starting with a black and white, you know that your values are correct because you can see them clearly in black and white. Sometimes colors can trick you into thinking that, hey, I'm making this thing darker or whatever, but it's really not. When you turn it to black and white, you can kind of see that if the values are actually darker or not. I'm going to take a really darker color here. This is the final shadow. Kind of come up and show a little bit of detail. These little lines that sometimes you can see. This is, this is not stuff, this isn't detail you actually have to have in there. I'm going to take a lighter color just to kind of show I have those in there. Take this darker color and kind of work it all on this side of the lip over here. That side of the lip's all darker. This is kind of lighter. Pushed into there a little bit. Kind of peel that whole side. So now you have, there's more form to that upper lip there. I want to kind of take this kind of grayish color here now. I want to add it into the drop shadow of the lip. I'm also going to define the teeth with this color. I'm going to show, I know the center of the teeth are going to be right about here. And I want to make sure the tooth is big enough. You don't want to give too much shape to teeth though. I just want to kind of define them a little bit. This is my personal recommendation. The reason why I do it that way is because if you add I notice if you add too much definition to teeth, they don't, the painting doesn't look as pretty. So a lot of this I'm kind of making sure I don't add too much definition. Might show a little bit of the bottom teeth in here. And maybe show like this, these teeth over here. Alright, so now I'm going to have the bottom lip, isn't going to have more of this warm color. I'm going to take this color here, separating. And the teeth might even get darker than that, so I'm going to take this color, I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Just click on it here, and bring this over here where you can see it. I'll drop it down just a little bit. I'm going to come in here, darken all this up. I'm going to take the tooth color, the lighter color, and just kind of come back and add a little definition. So I like to keep the teeth minimalistic. You might want to add, like naturally, there's going to be probably a little bit darker of this kind of color. I'm just, making it a little bit darker, a little bit desaturated. And you might actually see this color in here, showing that like drop shadow of that tooth there, maybe a little bit right here. But it's not something you have to have. It's just up to you how much that realism you want to kind of bring back into the image. It might be a little bit of the texture over here. This is all stuff you're gonna, you think about when you come back into the drawing or painting in this case. And you're like, hey, how much texture do I want to add? What do I want to add? And we know that lips tend to have these lines in there, but how many of those lines do you want showing through on your painting? And I'm just gonna add a few. My cool highlights here. I really want to have some nice specular highlights on the bottom lip. I think it looks really cool when you do that. Might also take this texture brush and add just a little bit of highlight in here. Maybe take this pinker color, kind of bring out that lighter color and make the bottom lip lighter than the top lip. Maybe even again add like this. That made it look a little too thick over there. Add this pink color over here as well. And then I gotta decide if I want to add this kind of color along the shadowy part here, which is sometimes there. And this is the reflective highlight color into the bottom of the lip. That looks pretty cool. Again, you can add a couple texture lines coming through. As you can see, it's all starting to really kind of take shape, and then it's just a matter of coming in and refining everything. And then you can do like there's all kinds of details in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to have a pretty detailed image without getting too detailed, because you can really spend hours on a painting of a face if you really want it to look super realistically detailed. I'm going to take a brighter highlight here into this part of the eye that's bouncing back into there. There's going to be a little specular highlights in here. Might be some specular highlights into the eye here. Go along right on the eye like that. Show that it's like a kind of a almost like glass, but it's not quite glass, but maybe a little bit orange and pink together. Black color. Go back to this bluish highlight. Kind of lights up this whole little indent right here. Now everyone has that little hole, that little indent there, but when it is there, it's usually always filled with light. And we can even come back in and add a little bit of pinkness to that light. There's going to be some specular highlight here on the nose. Some, show some texture. We're going to take a soft brush maybe, add a little bit of the light here, and then we can come back in and add texture. I'm going to stick with the textured brush. Adds more of that quick painted look, which I like. Kind of starts fading out over here. Taking colors and just overlapping them really adds a cool effect, I think. Want warm shadows, so I'm going to add the warm shadows to where the hair is falling. A little bit of warmness to the eyebrows a little bit here like that, especially the under part of the eyebrows. And to get a more realistic look to your colors and everything, you don't have to stick with these more kind of, it is possible to get these kind of colors in skin, but most likely they're gonna be slightly different colors. Like they're gonna be more It's very rare you're going to see these kind of colors in skin. You'll probably see more like tanner, brownish colors and stuff like that. But this is really cool if you want that more, I guess, kind of painterly look. That's the best way I can describe it. And again, this still has a long ways to go as far as being like totally finished. But we're getting somewhere. I should have probably done the detail of the ear a little bit more before I covered it with hair, but that's alright. Well, at least show the ears more rounded off there. Ears should be a little bit lower too. It's a little high right now. The lobe of the ear should come down here more, like in this area here. Come up, and the whole ear should be kind of lower like that due to the angle of the face. But I'm not going to concern myself with that right now. Take too much time. Okay, I'm going to come back in and work some more detail on this eye here. Also brushes, when you're, my typical, I don't know if you like see any of my painting tutorials, my general painting tutorials. It's still really important that you start out big, with big brushes, and then work your way down to smaller and smaller brushes. Because what that does is it allows you to focus on the form and the big picture first and get that down, so you don't waste too much time trying to correct stuff. And it's only after you have that down you want to think about going in with smaller brushes. And I really recommend either using like a texture brush like this and start out big and then just keep making it smaller and smaller to do the texture and detail, and then go to like a size 3 brush and maybe even size 5. But also start with this brush here, which is my standard painting brush. If you want to look at it, all it has is opacity on it. There's no size diameter. Notice it doesn't get smaller when I do lighter. It stays the same thickness. This is really what you want to paint with. And that if you want to get smaller, just make it smaller and get the most detail you can like that before you stick to a brush that has any sort of shape dynamic set to pin pressure. The color, however, eyes are quite blue. I kind of like it. It's like unrealistically blue, but it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and start painting on this eye here. There are times where, you're doing such small brush strokes with your paint brushes, like if you're using real paint brushes with real paint medium like oils or acrylics or something, there are times it does quite, feel like drawing. And that's because you're using a brush that is, quite small, and you're getting details, and so you're just making these small little marks, and that can kind of feel like painting, or like drawing, sorry. So sometimes when you're painting, it can actually feel like drawing. Take this color over here, this kind of shadowy color into the eyeball there. Add a little bit of pink into the eyeball. You can even take yellow and add just a little bit of yellow into the eyeball. It usually adds some cool factor. Now, even though you're using this kind of more bluer highlight, use a kind of gray shadow here, a drop shadow. Go back to size 3 for making the eyelashes. And before I make the eyelashes, I might want to go in here, this darker color, and make the eyelid area. Again, I'm going to start with a bigger brush and even textured still to add in the basic shadow of her eye in there. Take this kind of shadowy color. Also got to decide, is she wearing makeup in this part of her eye? And if so, I can always add that after I have the skin color down first. You don't have to go and add the makeup color in right away. You can do it in stages. Go, okay, well, for now I'm just going to focus on making sure that the image looks right without makeup. Colors look right and everything. Then I'll come back in. I'll add makeup. Notice there's still this blue and everything in here, and I think that's cool. It adds this really cool factor to the drawing, the painting. Adding the shadow part. Come back in with a darker color here, for this is the actual line, the part of the lid that really tucks in. And sometimes it approaches black because it gets so dark, especially if it's really tucked in. Just depends on the person, depends on the lighting, depends on a lot of different things. I want to take this kind of darker skin tone here now. I kind of want to start coming out. I got to get a darker color than that, so I can also just set it to multiply, and that's going to give me a darker color right away. Just lightly touch it. Kind of work my way out. Kind of want a darker tone in here. Start to show the overall form of the nose now. Just a little highlight right here. I'm going to take more of a skin tone here. Kind of using this dark color here actually. Let's use this skin tone here and start shaping the nose. I want a little bit of darkness right here. I might probably have to use a size 5 brush to get some of these details. Right next to the nostrils, you usually have these little indents that start from here like that. They add a little bit of shadow. And then you might be able to see this one very faintly over here. I'm going to try to show those details more by making it lighter around it. Kind of fade out that highlight a little bit. Might add a little bit of specular one more like that. Take this color here, it's kind of start blending it in more. Kind of like this warmer color, it's kind of take this one of these warmer colors I have made over here. Add into the nose. I have this more darker and purple. It's kind of cool on that side because that's the more the cool side of the face. Before I get started more on the nose, I want to come back in here and add some detail of the eyes. Let's go with a color dodge and blue. And then let's go ahead and add normal. I don't mean to do white, I meant to do this kind of bluer color. Usually, never use like white or pure black, like hardly ever in a painting, any given time ever. You can use like the color black, but you're just barely putting it on there. A couple of those little glistening highlights to that inside of the part there. You can add black, or you can use the color black or white, but not pure black or white. It's very rare you ever get pure black or white. So you just lightly use it. When you use the black or white, just like lightly paint over something with it. And that's going to give you that black or white. It's going to give you that darker look that you're looking for. If you look closely and analyze photos, you'll see that the what you might be perceiving as white isn't actually white. Even like the highlights inside the eyes usually isn't like a white. It's usually more of a kind of a yellowish white, or kind of a bluish white. In this case, we're using more of a bluish light source, so that is, we're using a cooler light source. Now I'm just coming in, I'm trying to add a little bit more details, and I try to use as few brush strokes as possible. And that's just something I do. If you want that more painted look, that's the way to do it. Try to add as few brush strokes as possible when you're overlapping things and everything you're doing, and you'll notice that you'll get more of a painterly look. I kind of like that, almost unfinished painted look anyway. Add a little bit more red to that side of the nose there. I might take this orange in here and add it just a little bit into the ball of the nose and the sides. Right, and that's one thing I haven't worked in yet is the sides of the nose. So I should work that in. Add this more cool color again. Let's come back. I like to bounce around if you haven't noticed. It keeps me from getting bored. Bounce around and go, okay, that's right, I forgot about the eyelashes. Let's go back and work those in a little bit. Now that I've finished everything else around them for the most part. Eyelashes don't all go in direction. They go different directions and overlap each other, crisscross each other. At this stage here, actually, I usually wait until I'm more toward the finished stage. I'm not going to make this too finished. So I'm going to add, a lot more, like a little bit refining. That just comes with light brush strokes and then grabbing the color picker and smoothing them out, making a few brush strokes and just pulling them together. Add a little bit of highlight on this part of the cheek, because remember this form of the cheek comes around, so you have the nostril, the flare, and then right on the other side of the cheek, right here, there's going to be a little bit of light, and that's going to pick up that underside of the ball of the cheek, and I can kind of smooth that out. Then you have a little bit of dark shadow underneath it as well, and underneath this side of the face you have darker. This dark shadow, so I'm pulling this way, this dark shadow might pull over here just a little bit, filling this whole side of the face over here. You can kind of smooth some of this out right here like that. Just take that color and just like lightly go over it so it's not as dark. And take this darker color here, small brush, add just a little bit of those shadows you see right here usually. Right here, the lips kind of come out a little bit. And maybe you might see a little bit of light around that one. All this down here, there's so much texture that needs to be done down here. And smoothing out to kind of really get the overall overall look that I'm going for. And the forms within here, there's all kind of form within the neck here that I'm just kind of leaving out, but I kind of want to give her face a little bit more chiseliness right in here. Go a little bit smaller of a chin. I notice there's all kinds of refining that you can do. And you can really refine forever. You know, you have to come to that stage in a painting where you go, okay, you know what, enough's enough. I've got it to where I like it, and then just leave it alone. Because you can really refine like forever, literally. You can probably little, not forever, but you know, for the rest of your life, you can probably sit there on one painting off and on whenever you have time and just like work it to death. Where it's like you're just trying to get that ultimate realism and just find, oh, here's a new little spot I can work on. Oh, here's another little spot I can work on. I haven't done that part yet. And there's a little lock of hair right in here that comes this way, and then it kind of fades like that, and then it kind of gets dark. You know, for example, kind of work that in there. And overall, it's not too dark, and then I might want to add more, you know, brown color maybe, maybe a little more bluish tint to it. Then I come in with the actual hairs and, you know, pull them in there. Maybe in a size 3 brush. So what I've done there is kind of pulled in another lock of hair. It's coming up and over. Maybe have some darker hairs over here. They're kind of coming over. Anyway, so let's see. I'm going to refine this down here a little bit more. It's a little too unfinished. You know, again, I like that kind of speed painted look and how things kind of look unfinished, but like a little bit of wrinkles of skin in here is what I'm doing at the neck. I don't know if I want it to look, you know, so unfinished that's like, wait a minute, that's like way unfinished looking. Yeah, maybe I'll have a little bit of shadow here, though the hair is going to be. Maybe I should use my ink brush for this instead. Might show just a couple little hair strands, you know, kind of flowing over into the. They kind of overlap and come down. And at this stage, you decide, you know, where do you want to cut off the image? What do you want to see? How do you want it to be? How do you want it to fit inside all together? And I don't know, that might have been, I might want to show more of her body. I don't know, but for the sake of this demo, I'm just gonna cut it off there. For the sake of time, mainly, if I don't have to work so much more stuff here. A lot of them I keep really kind of unfinished because I can't. Again, I like that look, and but still, I want the hair to kind of cover there more, make the composition look a little better, I think, or that part of the picture look a little better. Add this lighter color here to show a distinction between the dark and light. And you know, within shadows, you might see all kinds of cool colors, and even in the warm shadows, you might see cool colors. By cool, I mean like blues and stuff like that. So I might even take a like this and just add a little bit of this into here and then kind of mix them together. And you have the warm all along the edge here, which I like. And finally, I might add just a little bit of more of a black tone right here to this part of the shadow. If I want to show, the separation between the neck and the hair. All right, so we're at 1 hour and 15 minutes. I think that will pretty much do it. Let's kind of shape this a little bit more. I mean, like I said, there's all kinds of details I can add. I can go in and add, skin texturing and freckles and things like that. Take like a darker reddish brown color. Add some, actually I forgot about our nose altogether, didn't I? Probably more freckles near the nose than anywhere else. Maybe some over here on the cheek as well. And they can come back over and they don't have to, freckles don't always have to be like completely visible. So you can like take the skin color right around them and then kind of blend into them a little bit so they don't like stick out too much. If that makes sense. Alright, so now let's go add here and let's go back and add some detail to the nose. So I'm trying to shape out the flare of the nostril here. There's going to be a little bit of drop shadow on this side. Like that there. Actually, it's probably not that far out. Let's see here. Let's go a little bit closer. Right about here, that's where the drop shadow is to the nostril. So add a little bit of skin color. Come back in with some skin color into the nose here. Add this, make this part here a little bit darker, the philtrum. A little bit of light on that side because it's like a dip, so it lights oppositely. We'll have a little bit of a drop shadow all along the nose here. Even along this part right here. And so it doesn't have to be like, super hard brushes, I'm using a very soft kind of brush here to add in this detail of the nose. And notice it still kind of looks like a hard line, even though I didn't draw a hard line there at all. Add a little bit of a light color to this nostril over here though, right in this area. And I don't know how that line got there. Didn't realize I painted it. Let's take this darker color now and just kind of lightly push it into this part. Again, I'm like really keeping it loose and blending it out. I'm not making it too strong. I kind of want to add a little bit of pink into the nose here. Kind of, you don't have to do this. This isn't like, you don't have to make the nose this pink. But I think it looks kind of cute when you add a little pinkness to the nose. You can also just like take a soft brush and go to like soft light or overlay, even color dodge. Color dodge will be a little too much probably. And just add a little bit of pink in there, and you can take this like oranges color, just add a little bit of that in there, just to add, a little bit of orange to the nose and to the cheeks, And it doesn't have to be overlay. You can use soft light, so it's not so strong. You can also turn the opacity down, and that just adds, a little bit of warmness to the image. From there's all kinds of things you can do, and I think her hair is a little bit flat, so I would want to beef it up a little bit. And that means that I gotta kind of beef this out this way. And then take that color. Let's take this color in here. Oh, I got soft light still. So I'm not gonna, oops, on dissolve, normal. Kind of show it like it blending into the background, almost like the hair is like being, just blocked out into the background. I'm gonna kind of take this whole hair and kind of beef it up. Have it come out here more. Which means I destroyed all that work I did to the hair. That's okay though. So that kind of adds more correct, I think, bounce to the hair, how big the hair ought to be. You can add more what kind of background you want. Maybe like almost like a halo around, and then kind of dark over here. Then you can pick a darker color and make it really dark and kind of blend those together. Then you can take like soft light again. You can take this background color and you can just kind of pull it over the entire image like that, just lightly. And notice that kind of adds this, kind of brings the color together better versus when it's not there. Another thing you can do too is you can just make another layer, take that color, take one of these colors like this here, drop on that layer and set that layer to soft light, and then you can turn it down, and it adds, you can turn it off and on to see a difference. It adds that little bit of like background right into the character right away, and you can like flatten image and continue working it and fixing the things that you like and don't like. Anyway, there's a lot more details that we could add to this image, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it good. Hopefully this gives you a general idea of how to paint faces when you're, it's more of, how to think of color theory and skin and how to incorporate your backgrounds and things like that. There's other things you can do as well. You can go ahead and flatten this image, just for example. You can take a copy of this image here, set it to soft light, and then turn it down. That gives you more like contrast, so you can kind of see, is that something that you kind of like, don't like. You can also go to image adjustments and then go to like variance or vibrance, sorry. You can add some vibrance to it if you want it to be more, or you can add less if you want it to be more desaturated. You want that kind of more desaturated look. Vibrance, it's kind of a little different than saturation though. Saturation adds something a little different. You can turn down the saturation a little bit. It's like a -3 or something, and turn the vibrance up, and that adds kind of an interesting effect. If you don't want as much, grays and stuff like that, you can go back in there with like a color brush, and you can change that, or even a soft light brush. But a color brush is easier to change color. Take your color brush and come in here and take something more standard, like a brown or something. And you can come in here and you can just kind of change it. Add, that way it's a little less blue. You can also take your soft light brush here. I actually have it on a soft light. I meant to have that on color, but it kind of served the same purpose. Make this more like cheeky like that, and then kind of brighten it up a little bit with white, so it's not as bright. Just kind of tone it down a little bit so that, like that, and you can kind of tone down colors with the soft light brush, but it doesn't really destroy the form or shapes that you had built. Let's say I don't like how blue her face has become in here. I can warm it up. I can take like one of these warmer colors and soft light and come in here and just warm all this up a little bit, because I don't like how blue it became. That's all up to me and how I want to do that. I can also come in and say I don't like how strongly all this kind of changes color. I can kind of soften this out. So it doesn't change color so quickly. And that way that's not this right here, the difference between these isn't so dark. I can also go and take lighten. What lighten's going to do is I can take this lighten color here, and all it's going to do is lighten up things that are lighter than it. It won't lighten up colors that are lighter than it. So if I try to lighten up a color that's lighter than it, it won't work. It'll only lighten up colors that are darker than it, is what I meant to say. I can also take dark and it does the opposite. If I take this dark color here, it's only going to make colors that are darker than it. See how I can't color over here? It's only going to take colors that are lighter than it and make it darker. And so I might go ahead and make another copy. And I think I did that good. Okay, make another copy. Let's put this skin color in there now. And let's go ahead and set that to like darken. And you can take that and like turn it down. Just put it a little bit, that way you can kind of turn down the contrast of the image that way a little bit by adding that skin color everywhere. You can also try, what would happen if you did it with multiply and see how that kind of just changes the image a little bit, kind of turns it down. You can also then flatten the image again. Just trying to show a lot of post-work stuff you can do to make your paintings look better. Take adjustments and we can go to levels, for example. You can also go to curves and we can bring back the brights. Bam, like that. That brings the brighter part of the images back. You can also take it and make it darker. If you like the image darker or lighter, that's up to you. Bring this back over here. Let's say you don't want those too much. Just bring this over a little bit. Come back in. You can make your nose a little bit less red. Again, all you have to do to do that is take like something like soft light. Take one of these regular grayer tones. Just come in there and just kind of soften it up a little bit so it's not as red. Do the same thing with your lip. Want it to make it not as pink, like especially this side here. Notice it's not destroying the texture we have there. The texture is staying there. That's what that brush really comes in handy for. Let's say I really wanted to add more, just right here and like all this right here. I want this right here to all be really bright. I can bring all that back. I can even take my original blue color that I was using, go to normal, and then just add that bright color right back in there. If I wanted that part of the face kind of blowing out. And then if that part of the face is blown out, this part of the neck will also be blown out. So gotta be consistent with it. And that also makes that side of the face darker, which would be more natural. And even the lights on this side would be darker. So one way to do that is go to darken again. Take a darker color and just go over all this right here. That way it's only darkening up the lights and nothing else. And I did it very lightly, so I'd still have some lights to them. And I might add a little bit of this bright color back to the edge here. Maybe a little bit in here. And a little back into the forehead, in this area right here. And there you have it. So anyway, you can also go to darken, you can go to multiply, and just continue working little things like this. Let's say I want a little bit more, darkness in these lips in here. Underneath, I can add darkness into lips there to make it pop out more, but I don't have to. I can leave it the way I had it. It looked fine actually. But let's say I just want to add the darkness to this right here. I can add that back in there. I can take a dark red, take a bright red and multiply, and it'll look darker. I might have more of a grayish blue color. No, maybe not that gray blue, brown. With a drop shadow. Too hard. Sometimes it's good just to do it just to get a base color, then go back to normal, and then pick that color. Like, okay, I like that color. I'm gonna blend that color in now. It's a cool color. Say you like it. Trying to find some of the teeth with that highlight there. And there you have it. I can give her a little brighter teeth if I wanted to. I can take a soft light, grab this color, grab a soft brush even, and just like, oops, I'm at that color right there. That kind of makes the teeth look more like hazy, right? So that's not the look I want. I can take a regular brush I was working with before, just lightly lighten up some of the teeth here. Add some definition back into them. And I think I still might have a little too much definition in the teeth, so I can go ahead and lighten up a lot of this here. Oops. I just want to lighten up that one color, not the rest of the teeth. So let's go ahead and use lighten. This way it only lightens the darker parts and not the lighter parts. Bam. Anyway, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's a very long tutorial, but I wanted to make a real-time tutorial that goes into, painting a face and the different things it takes to paint a face, like how to adjust the colors, how to change them. Oops, dropped my box again. I started with, make sure I didn't push mute or anything on accident. Okay, try to push pause. Nope. All right, cool. I started with, something that was very different than this ending result. That is, I started with more of a palette that's, very bright. It would be better for a brighter background. You might get that skin tone in a certain type of environment where you have more of like a fantasy kind of brighter environment with a lot of more pale, like angelic city, whatever, and so it's a paler person and have that kind of color to them. But I wanted to kind of fit her more into this background, so I darkened it up and I showed these little tricks I can make her fit into this background more. Of course, I can come in here and I can really detail the hell out of this thing. I can add a lot more detail to her nose and a little bit more to her lips, a little more to her, obviously all around her face, and just kind of blend it out more and blend it in, make it look more smooth. But I kind of like the, that painted look, where you kind of see the brush strokes and stuff. Looks really cool. But I can still, even though I like that look, I can still blend it out a little bit more and still keep that look to it. But anyway, so color theory is a difficult thing to get. It can take a lot of study. Just keep in mind some of the principles I taught in this particular tutorial, and that is that the environment will affect the color of anything, whether it be a green shirt, a yellow shirt. If you do different kind of, like, one practice thing you can do is make a couple different background colors, or take some photographs and go, okay, this is like a sunset, and then go, okay, now I'm gonna make a flesh ball. Paint a flesh ball within that sunset environment. It's gonna have a lot of very warm reddish kind of shadows, very dark shadows. It's going to have a lot of midtones that are going to make the skin tone look more yellowish, and then it's going to have a lot of bright. The highlights are going to be more. They're going to be more dull because it's sunset, but the highlights that will be there are going to be brighter. And then and imagine you light it up with a kind of a regular yellow, or more warmer light, and so they're going to have more yellow highlights hitting the face rather than blue highlights. Take that exact same thing. It's in kind of like a getting towards the sunset. It's not quite a sunset yet. It's not dark out or nothing, but it's it's the sky is getting a little bit pink. And then paint the same flesh ball, but this time the sun is the background color, and it's the ambient color, so it's adding a overall warmness to the skin, the flesh ball skin you're doing. But this time, hit the flesh ball with a spotlight, with a nice bluish spotlight. Not blue, but like a cool light. In other words, like a tungsten light, or like the lights in Walmart, right? That has a bluer tint to it, or has a bluish tint to it. And hit it with a cool light, and then you'll see the difference that it makes that flesh ball. The light, everything else in the ball pretty much stays the same, but that light, the highlight, is more of a blue color. And you can try adding different backlights and things like that to change the flesh ball. And then take the base tone of the flesh ball. What if the person is more bronze color? What if they're more African American colored? Then you can add that as your base tone. And everything else, that's to have a lot more blues and stuff like that. And there's all different kinds of things you can do. You can really get crazy with it. Like, this is really interpretive. The painting I did here is a really interpretive painting scheme. The realism is there because of form. Form is what gives it the realism. The colors don't. The colors are really abstract. They're really pushing the limit. Those colors are naturally there in the face. A face is never monochromatic. If you look really closely at faces of photographs, you'll see there's a little bit of like kind of blue-gray toward the chin, even on girls, and a little bit of blue-gray and stuff in toward around the eyes. There's a little bit of pinks and oranges, warms toward the nose and the cheeks. It's all there. It's just hard to see because your brain kind of wants to see it as a monochromatic type of thing. So you might look at a photograph and what you think you're seeing is very monochromatic. You don't see very many color variations at all. But if you try to paint it, realistically, you're like, wait a minute, I'm missing something, because you're trying to paint that monochromatic look. You're like, something's missing here. And then if you take that monochromatic painted look, which looks very realistic as far as the rendering goes, and then take like a soft brush and take a warm light, let's say, and add warmness to the light, like a little bit of yellow to the highlights, which changes the whole entire monochromatic look already. And then take some cools and add a little bit of cool into the shadows, and then a little bit of cool into around the eye sockets, a little bit of warms in around the nostrils and the nose, a little bit into the lips, and a little bit of cool into the bottom of the chin. Suddenly, just very, very subtly, it changes the monochromatic into something that looks more realistic, and suddenly this monochromatic thing that looked realistic as far as rendering goes, but something looked off. It didn't quite look right. It kind of looked a little bit cartoonish. Adding those color variations suddenly makes it look more, makes it pop, and makes it look real, makes it look like more like a photo. Or you can go to the extreme like I did and really make it kind of look almost cartoonish. I can render it out more realistically, especially if I add more like darks and change the, basically go a little bit more towards monochromatic, a little more towards tans and stuff, and not such huge color variations. I can also add more rendering to add more shape variations within the face to add that more realistic look and try to get rid of that cartoony look. But it's not quite cartoony. It's not quite total realism. It's its own thing, and it's a style I kind of like. And anyway, so hope this has helped. And hey, do me a favor, if this tutorial has helped you, it's very rare that people on YouTube put like full like lessons on there that have tons of information, and like the ones I do. Since they're hard to find, help people find it by sharing it. All you have to do is click that share button and share it with your different networks. Facebook, just click as many as you have. Google Plus, Twitter, Facebook, whatever which ones you have on there, just click them all and share them with everyone that you know on those networks. That way, other people can learn from it, because they're hard to find. So help them find them. And that's it. That's all I ask of you, is just help people find these videos, that way they can learn from them. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and click thumbs up if you liked it as well. Appreciate it.